You think you're strengthening your asylum case by submitting every possible document, but what if I told you that some of these helpful materials are actually hurting your chances for success? There are 4 types of documents asylum seekers frequently submit that can seriously damage their case. Today, I'm going to expose them all, and we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying. And listen, I'd especially like to hear from you. If you've been waiting for an asylum interview for multiple years, let me know in the comments how long you've been waiting for that interview with USCIS. As an immigration officer with the government, I reviewed thousands of applications. And from my time as an asylum officer, I can't tell you how many times I saw applicants submit documents that they thought would strengthen their cases, but actually created problems instead. Each day I'd open case files filled with materials that made me think, oh no, they really should not have included this. It's completely understandable. Asylum seekers want to provide as much information as possible to prove their cases, but this approach can seriously backfire. Let's start with document mistake number 1, overly lengthy declarations. A declaration, sometimes called a personal statement, is your chance to explain in your own words what happened to you and why you're seeking asylum. Now, this document can really be helpful if it's done correctly, but many applicants misunderstand its purpose. I've seen declarations that were 20, 30, 40 pages long. In fact, one memorable case had a 52-page declaration that included a detailed political history of the applicant's country, descriptions of their childhood, and information about their extended family that had absolutely no relevance to their asylum claim. Now, here's the truth. Asylum officers simply don't have time to read extremely long declarations. When an officer sees a 10-page declaration, they're likely to either skim it or honestly just skip large portions entirely. And what's worse, when you include irrelevant information, it distracts from and dilutes the truly important aspects of your case. The key facts that make you eligible for asylum get buried in unnecessary details. So what should you do instead? Keep your declaration concise, ideally around 3 to 4 pages maximum. Focus solely on the facts that establish that you've been persecuted and have a well-founded fear of persecution going forward that's based on one of the 5 protected characteristics under U.S. asylum law. Now, you've got to focus on the stuff the officer actually cares about. And that, of course, means that you first have to be educated and understand what are these things that the officer truly cares about in any asylum case. And then you've got to relay these things in your declaration in a logical, concise, and powerful way. Now, hopefully your asylum lawyer is helping you to do exactly this. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. Okay, let's talk about document mistake number 2, untranslated or poorly translated materials. Any document not in English must be accompanied by a certified translation, but many applicants either fail to translate documents entirely or they submit translations with serious errors or inconsistencies or maybe unclear language that distorts the meaning of the original text. Poor translations can create devastating problems for your case. In one case I handled as an asylum officer, a medical report translation referred to wounds to the head in one paragraph and then brain injury in another. I mean, these two things are similar, but not exactly the same. A brain injury is much more serious than a simple wound to the head. This inconsistency raised serious questions about what actually happened to the applicant, leading to credibility concerns that threatened the entire case. Another applicant submitted a police report with a translation that made it sound like they were a suspect rather than a victim. Completely opposite of what the original document actually said, right? Well, this mistranslation nearly resulted in a denial before the error was discovered. So what can you do about this? Well, use professional translators with experience in legal documents and with asylum cases, not just friends or family members who speak both languages. Now, the translator must certify that they're competent in both languages and that the translation is complete and accurate. This certification must include the translator's name, address, signature, and the date the translation was finalized. Look, even with the professional translator, always have someone else review the translation against the original if possible. The small extra cost is is worth avoiding the potentially catastrophic consequences of a poor translation. And note that if you're going to do your interview in a language other than English, you must ensure that you use a professional interpreter with experience at the asylum office. Errors in interpretation during the interview pose a significant risk to your case. All right, document mistake number 3, irrelevant country conditions information. Country conditions information, if used properly, can really support your case. It can help the officer understand crucial context and see that people like you are at risk. Official reports and things like news articles from reputable sources can help you prove other elements of your case as well, such as in instances where the persecutors are not from the government. It can help you show that the authorities are either unable or unwilling to protect you. Many asylum applicants submit hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of general reports about conditions in their country. I've seen applications with entire human rights reports, academic journals, news articles, and historical accounts that have virtually no connection to the specific asylum claim. When I was an asylum officer, receiving a 500-page submission of general country information was incredibly frustrating, okay? Look, asylum officers simply don't have time to read through massive amounts of general material. Now, what's most problematic is when applicants submit this information without highlighting the relevant portions or explaining how it relates to their specific situation. This creates the impression that maybe you're trying to just overwhelm the officer with information rather than presenting a focused, well-reasoned case. So how should you handle this? Well, be selective. Choose only specific reports that directly relate to your claim. So if you're claiming persecution based on your political activity, for example, well, include reports that specifically discuss how political dissidents are treated in your country. And importantly, don't just dump the entire report in your filing. Instead, excerpt the most relevant sections, highlight the key passages in yellow, and explain in your cover letter precisely how this information supports your claim. Now, ideally, you've got an asylum lawyer handling all of this for you, in which case you don't need to deal with country conditions at all. That's your lawyer's job. Your asylum lawyer should be providing a legal brief in which they cite to and analyze relevant country conditions information and providing context and leveraging it as a means to drive home the most important points in your case. But look, if you don't have a lawyer doing this for you, then you should try to do a kind of scaled down version in your cover letter, referencing very most important and relevant parts of the country conditions information that you're supplying. Okay, we're ready for document mistake number 4, inconsistent witness statements. Witness statements, like letters provided by witnesses, can powerfully corroborate your asylum claim. But when these statements contradict your testimony or each other, they can destroy your credibility and sink your entire case. Look, I've seen many cases where an applicant claimed that they were attacked on a certain date, but then their witness stated in their letter that it happened months later, or where the applicant described being beaten by 3 people, but their witness mentioned 5 attackers. These discrepancies, even if seemingly minor, can lead asylum officers to question whether the events happened at all. The problem often arises when applicants don't carefully review what their witnesses write, or when witnesses exaggerate or maybe add little details that they think will help, not realizing they're creating dangerous inconsistencies that undermine the entire case. So what should you do instead? Well, be extremely selective about which witness letters you include. Choose only those with direct, first-hand knowledge of the events. Before they write it, explain to them the importance of accuracy, not exaggeration or embellishment. Review all witness statements multiple times before submission to ensure they align perfectly with your own testimony and with the truth. If there are minor discrepancies that can't be resolved, it's better to just not include the problematic witness statement. Remember, it's far better to have 1 or 2 strong, consistent witness statements than multiple statements with contradictions that could destroy your credibility. In fact, it's actually better to have 0 witness statements than to have inconsistencies. And also remember, quality in general is far more important than quantity in asylum cases. Everything you submit should directly support one of the key elements required for asylum. It's far better to have limited but genuine evidence, or honestly even no evidence at all, than to have questionable documentation that raises red flags. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's truly an honor to support you in your asylum journey.